Kevin Stefanski feels like his job may be on the line?
I don't concern myself with outside type of things. But I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
And so you didn't get this man a fighting chance to compete. He went into a gunfight with 2 knives. He gonna lose that every time.
You know you're going to waive Tyler Huntley. So what good did that 2-minute drive do for him? Was it going to help him? Don't you think Shedeur would have benefited more from a 2-minute drive than Tyler Huntley?
Coach Kevin Stefanski looks like he's backing off, and the heat is clearly on him and the Browns to make a call. After the game, several offensive linemen who'd been on the field with Shedeur Sanders were waived, and a few players had their deals terminated. The blowback was immediate, forcing Stefanski to explain his handling of Shedeur's snaps, especially why he pulled him before the 2-minute hurry-up, a situation many felt fit the rookie perfectly. Stefanski didn't sound convincing. Under obvious pressure, he said he put Tyler Snoop Huntley in for the final 2 minutes to get him tuned up. He looked rattled delivering it, still pushing the idea that Huntley needed that work. Let's be real, Huntley was an emergency pickup when injuries piled up. He's a stopgap, unlikely to stick on the 53, and yet Stefanski used that moment to sit Shedeur. The message in his tone was hard to miss. He knows the choice isn't playing well, and the whole approach around Shedeur Sanders is already blowing back on the staff. Before we go deeper into Stefanski's full comments and what they mean going forward, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more updates. As for the decision itself, the head coach's shaky explanation only highlighted how tense things have become. Framing the move as a tune-up for Huntley doesn't track with the stakes or with Shedeur's development timeline. It looks less like a plan and more like a scramble, and it's starting to backfire.
And did you, I'm sure you kind of answered this last night, but why didn't you keep him in for the 2-minute, or why did you decide to take him out?
Yeah, nothing more than decided to give Snoop.
TJ Houshmandzadeh, the former NFL wideout, didn't mince words about Kevin Stefanski's handling of Shedeur Sanders. He said that in all his years around the league, he's never seen a coach appear so uninterested in a player's success. To Houshmandzadeh, Stefanski's choices look personal, like there's a grudge against Shedeur, and that's what he finds most troubling. TJ Houshmandzadeh called the bias blatant and cautioned that, if it's real, the push on the Browns to dismiss Kevin Stefanski will only intensify.
The fans gonna be saying, Shedeur our quarterback. Shedeur should be our starter. Shedeur should be the guy that starts game 1, week 1. Look what he did. They didn't want that to happen. And I don't know what's going on with Kevin Stefanski. It's almost as if, and I don't even want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
And that's exactly how it came across. Kevin Stefanski's body language said plenty. He looked like a coach feeling the axe over his shoulder. TJ Houshmandzadeh added that this isn't the first time Shedeur Sanders has been treated this way. He pointed to the opening preseason game, where Shedeur was sharp, yet Stefanski offered no real praise. Now, after what unfolded yesterday, it looks like Stefanski is pushing the idea that Shedeur was at fault, almost as if he's trying to validate the staff's stance that they were right and Sanders was wrong. TJ even suggested it felt like the situation was engineered from the start to make Shedeur come up short.
Well, like when he played well the first game, he was so off-putting, like, oh yeah, well, we'll see what happens next. Like, he played great, man. He exceeded our expectations. He didn't say none of that. And
Right.
So to me, it's as if they want him to fail so they can justify doing what they want to do.
And Houshmandzadeh's red holds up. From the very first preseason outing, Kevin Stefanski's slant felt apparent. Even after Shedeur Sanders put together an impressive, mistake-free showing, Stefanski declined to highlight him, retreating to broad comments about developing all the quarterbacks and skimming past Shedeur's standout work. It didn't come across as genuine buy-in on Shedeur's future in Cleveland. Now the spotlight is squarely on Stefanski, who seemed intent on easing Shedeur towards the margins. Ironically, the coach looks more vulnerable than the rookie. After weeks of rigid messaging and thin criticism, he's suddenly pivoting, saying they'll concentrate on developing Shedeur Sanders. An about-face that screams pressure from the fan base. And it isn't only fans. Reporters and analysts are pressing him as well. Emmanuel Acho weighed in, arguing that by placing Shedeur with an offensive group filled with players unlikely to make the 53, Stefanski engineered a no-win evaluation. Acho's point was straightforward. Even a quarterback with Tom Brady's resume would have struggled in that setup with that caliber of support. In those conditions, any rough patches for Shedeur were predictable, an indictment of the context, not the quarterback.
What a COVID year, so he gave everybody an extra year if you wanted it.
Understandable. But listen,
What the chat say? The chat believe he took a shot or no?
Let me look in the chat. I ain't even open my phone. Hold on. I'm curious to see what the chat would think. They are saying
Hushman Zeta's take still holds. From the first preseason snap, Kevin Stefanski's slant felt obvious. Even after Shedeur Sanders delivered a crisp, mistake-free showing, Stefanski sidestepped any real credit, defaulting to broad talk about developing all the quarterbacks and skating past Shedeur's standout work. It didn't read like genuine buy-in on Sanders' future in Cleveland. Now the spotlight has swung to Stefanski, who looked intent on easing Shedeur to the edges of the plan. Ironically, the coach seems more vulnerable than the rookie. After weeks of rigid messaging and thin critiques, he's suddenly pivoting, saying they'll focus on developing Shedeur Sanders. A shift that screams fan pressure. And it isn't only the fan base. Reporters and analysts are pressing him too. Chad Okosinko weighed in, arguing that by sticking Shedeur with an offensive group filled with fringe or soon-to-be-waived players, Stefanski set up a no-win evaluation. Ochocinco's point was straightforward. Even a quarterback of Tom Brady's caliber would have struggled in that environment with that level of support. In those circumstances, any rough patches for Shedeur were predictable, an indictment of the setup, not the quarterback. Chad Ochocinco warned that the chorus of team-friendly critics would soon start branding Shedeur Sanders a bust, reducing him to fifth-string status, and the real problem would get ignored. Kevin Stefanski put Shedeur in a no-win setup. Despite growing backlash, Ochocinco argued this all looks like a coordinated effort to drag Shedeur down, with more energy spent tearing him apart than acknowledging why he struggled. He was right about the setup, but wrong about the Browns skating by. Fans are loudly calling for Stefanski's job over what they view as clear bias towards Shedeur Sanders, and that pressure is only intensifying. Skip Bayless also weighed in, blasting Cleveland's approach as the worst way to handle a young quarterback. He pointed to a recurring pattern. Shedeur has been consistently mishandled by Stefanski and by the organization, and that this isn't a one-off misstep. In Bayless's view, Sanders hasn't been given a fair runway or the right support, and the way the team has managed him has only piled on the pressure, making it even harder for him to succeed.
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened. By the way, Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
Given how this has played out with Shedeur Sanders, it's hard to escape the sense he was put behind the 8-ball from the start. When he made his first preseason start, Stephen A. Smith said the Browns were setting Shedeur up to fail, and recent events only strengthen that take. Between the lack of meaningful first-team reps and a string of puzzling play calls, the context never looked built for growth. At this point, the pattern makes his setbacks feel less like natural growing pains and more like the product of an environment that was never set up for him to succeed.
So he says, this is exactly what he says. I'm told the footage of Shedeur Sanders meeting with the Giants is so bad that both the Browns and the Sanders family have threatened legal action if it is.
What in the NFL is happening right now? The New York Giants just leaked a draft interview recording with Shedeur Sanders, and fans are completely freaking out. Did Shedeur take some shots? Did the Giants forget what the word confidential means? Or did someone accidentally hit reply all on something that was supposed to stay locked away? Get ready, because this roller coaster involves hot mics, bad takes, and a whole lot of drama.
What happened with Shedeur on draft night to make him fall to the 5th round, and them talking about the Giants coming out with all that information talking about Shedeur did bad, bombed the interview, all that type stuff. We all know my last video when I talked about the interview tape about Shedeur did not get a playbook.
The NY Giants, in true Stonewall fashion, dropped a carefully trimmed clip from their highly sought-after interview with Shedeur Sanders, then quickly locked everything else away like it was top-secret intel. Was this a calculated PR stunt or just a low-key attempt at sabotage? Either way, the silence speaks louder than any official statement. Fans aren't buying this half-baked version of transparency, and they're definitely not ready to just bench him and move on. Instead, they're demanding answers, calling out the organization for what feels like a planned smear job. One thing's for sure, the hate is loud, but Shedeur's supporters are even louder.
There was another team that he sat down with.
What do you mean it didn't go well after that?
So, he was pissed that they
did that to him.
They did that to him.
He counter-confronted
the
them.
same thing they do to every other quarterback prospect. They did that to him. They slide in a mistake to see if you catch it.
Right. And so
because you're the quarterback.
But he didn't take it as a correction. He took it as like he got pissed off.
Yeah, and it's like so here's another one. So another one was, he throws a bad interception, and it was a deep throw early in the game, and he comes back and they go in the meeting, they show the interception.
Let's just call it like it is. The Giants have perfected the tease. They've basically turned "we've got more, but we're not sharing it" into a comedy act, and the joke's on them. It's like they're standing center stage, booing themselves. Oh, you want more? Too bad. We're guarding it like Grandma's secret lasagna recipe. Congrats, Giants. You've officially become the talk of TikTok, X, and even Aunt Barbara's Facebook. Yep, the holy trinity of online outrage. This whole thing screams drama, screams petty, and definitely screams PR disaster in a fitted cap. Just release the full tape before fans start pulling up to headquarters with pitchforks. And popcorn.
GM is getting fired. The GM, who was that nigga that Jaden Daniels. The GM is on film that the nigga's son, the nigga asked his son last draft, yo, who you think I should pick? His son like, yo, you need to get the Jaden Daniels nigga, B. This is what his son, it's on tape. You should go Jaden Daniels. He laughing at his son. And all right, cool, get Jaden Daniels. I don't even know how that tape got out. I wouldn't have let the shit get out personally.
Meanwhile, Shedeur, the latest poster boy for maybe the Giants don't like talent unless it's dressed in blue and red confetti, is soaking it all in like it's just another day at practice. And here's the best part of the irony. The Giants tried to label him as all hype, no substance, a paper tiger. But instead, they accidentally turned him into the hottest name being mentioned by every sports analyst out there. They tried to bury the story, but somehow ended up stamping it in bold. It's the classic case of ignoring a trending conversation for so long that sure, people get annoyed, but at the same time, they keep your name alive better than your own PR team ever could.
It's funny. New York Giants, where these tapes at? You hear me? Because if Shedeur Sanders was so unprofessional, y'all would have leaked the tapes for the whole world could see, right? Because understand, it's a lot of he say, she say. But one thing I do know, as a young black man growing up in this world, being straightforward and not sugarcoat anything.
Oh, this narrative is pure gold. Giants PR completely skipped subtlety and went straight to the "we don't like his dad" playbook. A move so awkward, it's like trying to dunk and ending up in a kiddie pool. You can almost picture them brainstorming it. Yeah, we're just not fans of QB families that aren't ours. Because nothing screams professionalism quite like having zero self-awareness. And the fan reactions? Absolutely priceless. That one little clip was all it took to set the internet on fire. Keyboards everywhere started lighting up. People are asking, why hide the good stuff? What are you trying to cover up? If there's really nothing to hide, why not just drop the full thing? And spoiler alert, they weren't whispering. Social media exploded faster than a New York City grill on Memorial Day weekend.
Them out. Another moment. What they do during the film and the combine and the meetings is teams will install mistakes intentionally planted in the install, and they want you to catch them. Shedeur didn't, and when a coach called him out, once again, it didn't sit well. It's like, bro, there's not many teams needing quarterbacks. especially since Pittsburgh appears to have a deal with Aaron Rodgers and Tennessee's getting Cam Ward. So you're down to the Giants, who are not in.
And that brings us to the next tasty slice of irony. By refusing to release the full interview, the New York Giants probably thought they were hurting Shedeur Sanders' image. But instead, they ended up throwing gasoline on the hype train. Rather than shutting things down, they made him look like the kid who grabbed the last cookie and somehow got blamed for taking the whole jar. Only difference? This kid's got cameras on him 24/7, and he's handling the heat like a seasoned pro. Now, every move he makes is being broken down, every throw studied like it's a presidential debate. Fans are calling it what it is. They've lied on Shedeur. Some say the Giants just don't like his dad, and honestly, that might be true. Maybe this whole thing was just a cheap shot at Deion Sanders by extension. But here's the plot twist. The harder they try to drag him down, the more interesting his story gets. The Giants accidentally turned Shedeur into a walking headline, a controversy in cleats. They tried planting doubt, but all they really did was create buzz. He's no longer just a top draft pick. He's now a symbol of resilience, a narrative goldmine, and living proof that real talent doesn't fold under pressure. It levels up. And at this point, even if the Giants wanted to, there's no turning off the spotlight.
Okay, so probably the most fun yet the most difficult thing I cover and we cover all year long is not games. It's the NFL draft. Because I've said this many times, you get lied to for a month to 2 months up to it. And so often during the draft, and every few drafts, there's a guy that really falls, precipitously falls. This year it was Shedeur Sanders, it's been Aaron Rodgers, it's been Dan Marino. Every few years somebody falls a lot. And so, but those stories don't come out until like the fall and after.
Let's not overlook the fact that the hate is so strong, you could bottle it up and sell it as radioactive cologne. You can practically watch it leaking out of Giants HQ like toxic sludge straight out of a bad superhero origin story. But here's the twist. Maybe that's their superpower. Maybe the New York Giants really believe they're cooking up some secret formula, a cocktail of manipulation and media spin. But here's the thing. Every bit of shade they throw at Shedeur Sanders only makes his story bigger. Every time they try to box him in as some overhyped diva or question his character, they accidentally hand him another viral moment. And now, he's the underdog hero rising through the smoke. Let's be real. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about narratives, control, and how the establishment absolutely loses it when they're no longer holding the pen. And the real kicker? They still won't release the full interview. You've got NFL fans, media heads, and entire Reddit threads all chanting, "Drop the tape." Like it's some long-lost Beatles album. Meanwhile, the Giants are just sitting there, staring into the void like nobody saw this mess coming.
Now, I don't know if it ever gonna get leaked or not. The tapes, the New York Giants have the tape. They definitely have the tape. It's confirmation that they have the tape. Shedeur didn't do nothing. It's what they saying he did. I'm gonna tell you what these mixed reaction right here. So we already know about the New York Giants, but the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin reported Miles Sanders' talent, but hesitated to draft him due to previous challenges with quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, leading to more cautious approach. Las Vegas Raiders. Sanders met with Raiders at the NFL scouting combine and expressed enthusiasm about potentially joining the team. His familiarity with the West Coast offense and quick release was noted positive, though concerns about his ceiling.
The plan to have who will be the first quarterback in the game?
Shedeur. Yeah.
Is Dylan Gabriel going to be like second quarter? He's out there because Flacco just needs a minute in the blue tent.
Yeah, that feels likely.
And if it's Shedeur Sanders and he starts balling,
then what?
everything changes in a
whole
bat of an
season,
eye.
Yeah.
He's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dillon Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dillon Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last week, and so the tenor of the conversation changed. He really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Kevin Stefanski made it clear that Shedeur Sanders will keep getting opportunities regardless of any new additions, identifying him as the club's emergency option moving forward. That stance set off fresh debate. If the Browns didn't plan to lean on Bailey Zappe, why bring him in at all? Zappe wasn't signed to be the starter. He's roster insurance, a safety net if the season throws a curveball. In practice, this points to Shedeur remaining the next man up at quarterback 1 if circumstances demand it. Cleveland's decision to add Bailey Zappe looks like a depth play, rather than a push to crown a new starter. It's a precaution meant to reduce the risk of getting thin at quarterback over a long season. By signing Zappe, the Browns keep their options open without committing to a full reset at the position. The move isn't about replacing Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel. It's about maintaining coverage in case injuries or other issues hit the room. Overall, the message is simple. Shedeur stays in the primary development and contingency lane, while Zappe provides stability and flexibility behind the scenes.
I like the fact that they have him there. I think he'll be good in practice. He'll be good for some of those younger guys in helping them to prepare for a game and whatnot.
The Browns added Bailey Zappe primarily to steady the room and support their young quarterbacks this season. According to Mary Kay Cabot, his day-to-day will center on helping install weekly game plans, getting the QBs ready for opponents, and being prepared to step in if injuries hit. Cabot also noted he could become a quietly valuable piece. At the same time, the move may hint that Dillon Gabriel is drawing trade interest. Several teams are reportedly checking in, especially after Kenny Pickett's recent deal. With Gabriel in the spotlight, speculation is growing that Shedeur Sanders could be only a few games from settling in as the number 2, creating a real opening for him. Stephen A. Smith weighed in as well, emphasizing Sanders' steady climb and the momentum he's built. He argued that even before the latest preseason outing, Sanders had effectively moved ahead of Gabriel on the depth chart. Aside from a brief stumble last week, Smith said, Sanders has kept stacking positives, communicating cleanly with teammates, and staying locked on development. In his view, the Browns recognize Sanders' upside and are banking on continued growth as he evolves into a more impactful presence in the near future.
He really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Stephen A. Smith underscored Shedeur Sanders' steady rise, emphasizing the real momentum behind his development. He said that even before the most recent preseason game, it was apparent Sanders had edged ahead of Dillon Gabriel on the depth chart. Smith added that, aside from a brief setback last week, Sanders has remained unbeaten, strengthened his communication with teammates, and is fully locked in on refining his craft. In Smith's view, the Browns clearly recognize Sanders' immense upside and are counting on him to keep growing into a more impactful, commanding presence as time goes on, a trajectory that reflects both his poise and the staff's increasing trust.
Going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dillon Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dillon Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last week, and so the tenor of the conversation changed.
Stephen A. Smith's take lines up with head coach Kevin Stefanski's shifting approach to Shedeur Sanders. Lately, Stefanski has doubled down on developing Sanders and brushed off outside criticism. That's a notable change from earlier, when he downplayed concerns and offered sharper critiques. After the Kenny Pickett trade, the tone flipped. Sanders moved back into the spotlight with a real chance to prove himself. The timing matters, signaling the staff is ready to give him a genuine runway to show his upside.
I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
Several analysts have weighed in on Shedeur Sanders' push for the QB2 job. and many point to Dillon Gabriel's size as a potential long-term hurdle to holding that role. Mike Tannenbaum praised Gabriel's calm, efficient preseason and acknowledged his skill, but he also flagged height as a meaningful disadvantage at the NFL level, one that could make a trade scenario more realistic. Talent and mechanics matter, he noted, yet measurable limitations can be hard to mask over a full season, which might jeopardize Gabriel's grip on the backup spot and prompt teams to explore moves. Nick Wright echoed a similar theme. He credited Gabriel's ability and upside, but didn't sidestep the obvious constraint: size. Wright argued that while Gabriel can sharpen decision-making and accuracy, he can't change his frame, and that physical profile may complicate his path to becoming a steady NFL starter. By contrast, when stacked against Shedeur Sanders, who brings broader physical tools and a higher developmental ceiling, the gap becomes clearer. That comparison highlights the specific challenges Gabriel must overcome, and why momentum may be tilting toward Sanders for the QB2 role.
Gabriel, who, through no fault of his own, commits one of my cardinal sins of quarterbacking, which is he's tiny. And so, he's tiny.
Mike Florio, senior NFL analyst, weighed in on the Browns' internal debate and suggested the team is seriously considering moving Dillon Gabriel. He cautioned that dealing Gabriel could thin out the quarterback competition, but he also framed it as a strong opening for Shedeur Sanders to step forward. With added reps and visibility, Sanders could make a real impression and lock himself in as a valuable QB2 option for a team that needs stability behind its starter. Florio also noted that after Kenny Pickett's departure, Cleveland may be even more inclined to explore a Gabriel trade. By contrast, Sanders is essentially off-limits in his view because of his massive fan base and the public blowback a trade would trigger. With the conversation getting louder, Florio believes moving Sanders would do more harm than good for the organization's relationship with its supporters. That's why Gabriel stands out as the more likely trade candidate as the Browns try to manage depth, keep momentum, and stay aligned with their fan.
This is one of the natural and foreseeable byproducts of drafting him. He comes to town with a built-in fan base. The mouth breathers, as you call them, are in tow. Not that I called them that, but you called them that.
Yeah,
They're there.
Rich Eisen weighed in on Cleveland's situation, saying that if Dillon Gabriel is moved and Shedeur Sanders slides into the QB2 role, it's likely only a matter of time before he's starting later in the year. Eisen argued that the promotion would give Sanders the runway to cement himself, and he's confident Sanders is on track to become QB1 at some point this season. The momentum is clearly tilting towards Sanders, positioning him to take over when the opportunity presents itself. Big picture, Kevin Stefanski's message that Shedeur Sanders is the next man up if anything happens to Joe Flacco is just one part of a broader shift. Factor in Sanders' steady growth, the coaching staff's evolving view, and the ongoing chatter about Gabriel's future, and it's clear Sanders isn't being framed as a mere emergency option. He's a real contender for QB1. If Gabriel is dealt, that could be the final push that quiets the doubts and locks in Sanders as the Browns' future at the position, signaling a fresh chapter for the team. What's your read on Cleveland leaning towards Shedeur Sanders as a potential QB1? Would a Dillon Gabriel trade seal it? Or do you see a path where Gabriel still takes on a bigger role? How do you expect the battle among Sanders, Gabriel, and Joe Flacco to unfold? And what does it mean for the Browns going forward? Share your take. I'm curious where you land.